My name is Samantha Parker, but everyone calls me Sam. I'm 34 years old, and this morning I woke up excited for Thanksgiving. I stretched, smiled, and called out to my family. No answer. The house was eerily quiet. I searched every room, growing increasingly frantic. Then I saw a hastily scribbled note on the kitchen counter. My husband Derek, our children Lily and Ethan, my in-laws, and even my sister had all left for a luxury Thanksgiving trip to the Bahamas. They didn't want to wake me and thought I needed the rest. My entire family had abandoned me on Thanksgiving, and they didn't even bother to invite me. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you love, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Trust me, what happened next in this nightmare will shock you just as much as it shocked me. Grab some tissues, you'll need them, as I share how I discovered my entire family had been plotting behind my back for months. Derek and I got married young. I was just 19 and he was 21. We were college sweethearts with big dreams. 15 years, 2 children, and countless compromises later, our once passionate relationship had cooled to something resembling polite roommates passing in the hallways of our suburban 4-bedroom home. Our daughter Lily is now 13, navigating the turbulent waters of middle school with all the drama that entails. Our son Ethan is 10, a sensitive boy who loves video games and struggles with anxiety. I see myself in him the way he tries to keep the peace, to make everyone happy even at his own expense. Over the past 5 years, my career as a hospital nurse had become increasingly demanding. I primarily worked night shifts in the ICU, a schedule that left me perpetually exhausted but allowed me to be present for the kids' daytime activities. At least that's what I told myself. The truth was more complicated. Night shifts paid a premium, and we needed the extra money. Or so I thought. Derek had steadily climbed the corporate ladder at a successful tech company, eventually reaching an executive position that came with a substantial salary. Despite this, he always emphasized how expensive our lifestyle was, how the children's private school tuition and extracurricular activities strained our finances. I never questioned this narrative, simply taking on more shifts to contribute my share. Sam, we need to be realistic about our finances, Derek would say whenever I suggested cutting back my hours. Your income is essential to maintaining our standard of living. So I worked more, slept less, and drifted further from the family I was working so hard to support. My in-laws, Richard and Linda, never approved of me. From the beginning, they viewed me as beneath their precious son, a working-class girl who had trapped their brilliant boy with pregnancy. Though Lily wasn't actually conceived until 3 years into our marriage, they never abandoned this narrative. Richard, a retired investment banker, and Linda, a former beauty queen who now chaired various charity committees, made their disapproval clear in countless subtle ways. Samantha, dear, Linda would say, emphasizing my full name despite knowing I preferred Sam, couldn't you find something more professional to wear to the country club dinner? Or Richard would pointedly ask, don't nurses primarily empty bedpans? Surely with Derek's connections, you could find more suitable employment. My sister Rachel was supposed to be my ally, but over the years, she had gradually shifted her allegiance. 5 years younger and perpetually single, Rachel had become increasingly embedded in my family life, but not in ways that supported me. She attended Derek's company events when I was working nights. She joined my in-laws for weekend trips that I was too busy to participate in. She knew my children's teachers better than I did because she could attend the midday school functions I missed due to sleep or work. Don't worry, Sam, Rachel would assure me. I'll take notes at Ethan's parent-teacher conference for you. Her help always came with an undercurrent of judgment, a subtle reminder of my failings as a mother and wife. The past year had been particularly difficult. Derek's company had gone through a successful IPO, catapulting his net worth into the millions through stock options. Yet somehow, our household financial pressures never eased. When I suggested scaling back my hours now that his income had increased so dramatically, Derek dismissed the idea. The market is volatile, Sam. We need to be conservative with our planning. Besides, your patients need you. It was a masterful manipulation appealing to my sense of duty while maintaining the status quo that kept me exhausted and absent. 2 months ago, I'd hit a breaking point after a particularly grueling week of night shifts. 3 patients had died under my care, not due to any negligence, but simply because death is an inevitable part of ICU work. I came home emotionally drained to find the house a disaster, the children bickering, and Derek irritated that I hadn't handled some paperwork for the kids' summer camps. "I can't do this anymore," I had said, breaking down in tears at the kitchen table. "Something has to change." Derek had seemed momentarily moved, putting his arm around me. "Let's talk about it after the holidays," he'd suggested. "Thanksgiving and Christmas are stressful enough without making big life decisions." I'd agreed, focusing instead on planning the perfect Thanksgiving. I'd ordered a heritage turkey from a local farm, collected special recipes, and spent my rare free time making lists and preparations. Despite working 3 night shifts the week before Thanksgiving, I'd managed to clean the house, purchase all the ingredients, and even set the table 2 days early. The Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, I'd come home from my shift, showered, and fallen into bed around 9 a.m., looking forward to waking refreshed in a few hours to begin cooking. Instead, I woke to an empty house and the beginning of a nightmare that would reveal just how completely my family had betrayed me. The silence was what registered first. Thanksgiving morning in our house was normally chaotic. Ethan watching the parade on TV too loudly, Lily complaining about having to help, Derek making his special cranberry mimosas, the dogs barking at delivery trucks. But that morning nothing. No television, no complaints, no clinking glasses, no barking. Even the dogs were gone. I called out, my voice echoing through the empty rooms. "Derek? Kids? Hello?" Nothing but the faint hum of the refrigerator answered me. I checked my phone. 11:27 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day. I'd slept longer than intended, but surely they wouldn't have started celebrations without me? My family knew how much this holiday meant to me, how carefully I'd planned everything. Moving from room to room, I noticed the little absences. Lily's favorite backpack gone from its hook. Ethan's worn stuffed dinosaur missing from his bed, he never traveled without it. The dog's leashes vanished from the mudroom peg. In my growing panic, I called Derek's cell phone, straight to voicemail. I tried Lily's phone, same result. Even my in-laws' numbers went unanswered. Then I saw the note on the kitchen counter, held down by the salt shaker. Derek's hasty scrawl read, "Sam, didn't want to wake you since you need the rest. We decided to take a last-minute trip to the Bahamas with Mom and Dad for Thanksgiving. They have a villa at Atlantis. Taking the kids and dogs. Rachel came too. Back Tuesday. There's leftover pizza in the fridge. Love, D." The room seemed to tilt sideways. Leftover pizza? For Thanksgiving? The heritage turkey sat in the refrigerator, brining in its special mixture. The sweet potatoes, cranberries, and green beans I'd carefully selected were arranged on the counter, ready for preparation. The pies I'd stayed up late baking before my final shift sat on the cooling rack. My hands shaking, I opened Instagram on my phone. The betrayal materialized in bright, filtered images. Derek had posted just 1 hour earlier, a selfie of the entire family, my family, on a private plane. Lily and Ethan beaming with excitement, the in-laws looking smug, Rachel flashing a peace sign, and Derek in designer sunglasses captioning it, "Surprise Thanksgiving getaway, blessed family time." Family time, without the children's mother. The comments were already pouring in. "OMG so jealous. Living the dream, man. Where's Sam?" To this last question, Derek had replied casually, "Working, couldn't get away." But I wasn't working. I had specifically requested this time off months ago. Everyone knew this was my holiday, the one I'd been planning for weeks. My chest tightened, breathing becoming difficult as the room spun around me. I slid down against the refrigerator to the floor, gasping for air as a full-blown panic attack overtook me. Black spots danced in my vision as my heart pounded painfully against my ribs. When the acute attack finally subsided, I found myself curled on the kitchen floor, my face wet with tears. I didn't remember crying. The house's silence mocked me. I tried calling Derek again, this time leaving a voice message that started calm but dissolved into desperate questions. "Where are you? Why didn't you wake me? How could you take the children on Thanksgiving without even asking me? Call me back immediately." I sent text after text, watching as they delivered but remained unread. I called Rachel, my own sister, only to be sent straight to voicemail again. My in-laws' phones were similarly unavailable. In a last-ditch effort, I called our neighbor, Barbara, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, Samantha," she said, her tone conveying artificial surprise that didn't quite mask her awkwardness. "I thought you'd gone with them." Derek mentioned they were planning this trip weeks ago. Something about a special Thanksgiving package his parents had purchased. "I'm feeding the fish while you're all away." Weeks ago, this wasn't a spontaneous trip, this was planned, without me, deliberately without me. I thanked Barbara woodenly and hung up, a new emotion burning through the shock and hurt rage. Pure, white-hot fury that sent me moving through the house with new purpose, searching for evidence of just how long this betrayal had been in the works. The first evidence was easy to find once I started looking with clear eyes. In Derek's home office, the top drawer of his desk contained a folder labeled Thanksgiving 2023 inches his meticulous handwriting. Inside were printed confirmations for 7 first-class tickets to Nassau 7, not 8. There was no ticket in my name. The departure date was clearly marked, November 23, Thanksgiving morning at 7 a.m. The return date, November 28. The villa booking confirmation showed a 4-bedroom luxury accommodation at Atlantis Paradise Island Resort, reserved 3 months ago. The reservation listed the occupants: 2 master bedroom, Derek Parker, space for second adult left conspicuously blank; 2 children, Lily and Ethan Parker; 2 additional adults, Richard and Linda Carson; 1 additional adult, Rachel Winters, my sister. My hands trembled as I continued searching. In our shared closet, I noticed gaps where Derek's favorite vacation clothes should have been. In the guest room closet, I found shopping bags stuffed with receipts: new swimsuits for the kids, beach cover-ups for Rachel, golf attire for Derek and his father. All purchased weeks ago and carefully hidden. The guest bathroom trash hadn't been emptied. Inside was a discarded packing list in Lily's handwriting: swimsuit, sundress, sandals, sunscreen, hat, phone charger, book for plane. At the bottom, in different handwriting, Rachel's was added: "Don't mention to Mom." My own daughter was instructed to keep secrets from me. I moved to our shared family iPad, which Derek often forgot to log out of. His email was still open, showing a thread from 2 months ago with his parents. The subject line read, "Thanksgiving plans, confirm villa." Richard had written, "Son, the Thanksgiving package is booked. Linda thinks 5 nights is perfect. Are you sure Samantha won't make a fuss about being excluded? We don't want drama." Derek's response made me physically ill. "Dad, I've got it covered. Sam will be exhausted after her Wednesday night shift. She'll sleep through our departure, and by the time she realizes what's happened, we'll be in the air. She works so much anyway, she probably won't even mind the alone time. Worst case, she'll be upset but can't do anything about it. We'll deal with any fallout when we return." Linda had chimed in, "Derek darling, this special family time is long overdue. Samantha works too much to appreciate a luxury vacation anyway. She'd just complain about the cost and ruin everyone's enjoyment with her penny pinching. The children deserve this experience with family members who can fully engage with them. Family members who can fully engage." The implication being that I, their mother, could or would not. Rachel's emails were perhaps the most painful discovery. My sister had been central to the planning. "Derek, I picked up the new luggage today and hid it in my apartment. I'll bring it over when Sam's on shift next week. The kids are so excited but keeping the secret well." Lily said, "Mom's always too tired to have fun anyway." Heartbreaking but true. This is the right decision for everyone. With shaking hands, I opened the family group chat on the iPad. They had created a separate thread without me months ago, titled Operation Paradise. The messages spanned weeks of detailed planning, all carefully orchestrated to exclude me. Derek to group. "Sam just picked up an extra Thanksgiving week shift on Wednesday night. Perfect timing. She'll be exhausted Thursday morning." Linda. "Wonderful. I've arranged for the private car service to pick everyone up at 5:30 a.m. She won't suspect a thing." Richard. "The private flight is confirmed. No commercial airport hassle." Rachel. "I've got activity reservations for everyone. Dolphin experience for the kids on Friday." But most devastating were the messages from my children. Lily. "Will Mom be mad we're going without her?" Derek. "She'll understand she needs rest. Besides, she's always saying she doesn't get enough quiet time." Ethan. "But it's Thanksgiving." Linda. "Sweetheart, your mom works holidays all the time. This way we get to have a real celebration instead of eating late because she needs to sleep." Ethan. "I guess. Can I bring Rex? His stuffed dinosaur. Derek, of course, buddy. This is going to be the best Thanksgiving ever. The casual cruelty, the deliberate exclusion, the manipulation of my children, it was all carefully documented in their own words. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a last-minute decision. This was a conspiracy, orchestrated by my husband and enthusiastically supported by my in-laws and sister to exclude me from a family holiday. The depth of betrayal was staggering, but one chat exchange chilled me more than the others. Richard, Derek, have you discussed the next steps with Sam yet? Derek. No, waiting until after the new year. The separation paperwork is ready, but Goldman advised handling the asset transfers first. Asset transfers? Separation paperwork? My husband was planning to divorce me and apparently moving assets with his father's help while pretending everything was normal. The Thanksgiving trip wasn't just a vacation without me. It was the beginning of their new normal, a family unit that didn't include me. I sat in the middle of the evidence, surrounded by the undeniable proof of their collective betrayal, and felt something hardening inside me. The hurt was still there, a gaping wound, but now it was accompanied by clarity and a cold, focused anger. They had underestimated me dramatically. They thought I would find the note, cry a bit, eat leftover pizza, and docilely await their return. They were very, very wrong. By mid-afternoon, the reality of spending Thanksgiving completely alone had fully settled in. The house felt cavernous and foreign, as if the walls themselves had been complicit in the conspiracy. The dining table I'd so carefully set days before mocked me with its festive centerpiece and precisely folded napkins. I wandered room to room in a daze, alternating between numbness and waves of searing pain. In the family room, photos from previous Thanksgivings lined the mantel. Last year's image showed all of us around the table, smiling. I remembered taking 3 night shifts in a row to have that day off. I remembered cooking for 18 hours straight to prepare the meal. I remembered Derek complaining that the turkey was slightly dry. I picked up the frame and hurled it against the wall, the satisfying shatter of glass matching something breaking inside me. My phone buzzed with notifications not from my family, but from friends and extended family posting their Thanksgiving celebrations. Images of togetherness flooded my social media feeds. Meanwhile, Derek had posted another update, a video of Lily and Ethan swimming with dolphins, captioned, "Making memories that last a lifetime, gratitude." The comments section overflowed with friends asking about my absence. Derek's responses varied from Sam's resting at the resort to, "She's catching up at the spa" to, "Taking photos." Lies upon lies, crafting a narrative where I was present but conveniently never visible. My neighbor Barbara texted, "Sam, we have plenty of food if you'd like to join us for dinner." The pity was unbearable. What had Derek told her? What did everyone think? That I was too exhausted to vacation with my family? That I chose work over Thanksgiving? Or did they know I'd been deliberately excluded and were too uncomfortable to acknowledge it? I declined politely, unable to bear the thought of explaining the inexplicable to a table full of pitying neighbors. At 4 p.m., when we would normally be sitting down to dinner, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the brined turkey I'd so carefully selected and prepared. In a surge of defiance, I decided to cook the entire traditional meal for myself. I turned on the oven, prepared the stuffing, peeled potatoes, and snapped beans with mechanical precision. Midway through, the absurdity struck me. I was preparing an elaborate Thanksgiving feast that would feed 12 just for myself. I sank to the kitchen floor and sobbed until I had no tears left. My phone rang. For a moment, hope flared perhaps Derek or the children had realized the cruelty of their actions. But it was Taylor, my closest friend from the hospital. "Happy Thanksgiving! How's the family celebration going?" Her cheerful voice made me wince. "They're gone," I said flatly. "They all went to the Bahamas without me." "They what?" Taylor's outrage was immediate and validating. "Tell me everything, right now." For the next hour, I poured out the whole sordid tale while continuing to mechanically prepare food I had no appetite for. Taylor's indignation grew with each revelation. "This is beyond unacceptable, Sam. It's emotional abuse." "And involving the children? Having your sister participate?" "I'm coming over." "No," I said quickly. "I need this time alone to think, to figure out what happens next." "Are you sure?" Because I'm ready to drive over with a bottle of tequila and help you change the locks. For the first time that day, I laughed a small broken sound, but genuine. I might take you up on that soon. But not tonight. After we hung up, I forced myself to eat a small plate of the food I'd prepared, though it tasted like ashes in my mouth. The house grew dark as evening fell. No one called. No one checked if I had received the note. No one seemed concerned about how I might be spending the holiday alone. My phone chimed with another Instagram notification. Rachel had posted a sunset beach photo of the entire family raising champagne glasses in a toast. So thankful for this incredible family vacation. Best Thanksgiving ever. Best Thanksgiving ever, because I wasn't there to ruin it. I poured myself a generous glass of the expensive wine Derek had been saving for a special occasion and curled up on the couch, allowing the full weight of betrayal to wash over me. The tears had dried up, replaced by something colder and more resolute. This wasn't just about a vacation or a missed holiday. This was the culmination of years of subtle undermining, of being gradually erased from my own family. The question that haunted me as I finally drifted into a restless sleep wasn't why they had left me behind. It was whether there would be anything worth coming back to when they returned. I woke early Friday morning with a sense of purpose that cut through the fog of emotional devastation. While the rest of America hit Black Friday sales, I would conduct my own investigation into exactly what was happening in my marriage and family. Derek's home office seemed the logical place to start a more thorough search. My husband was methodical to the point of obsession about his paperwork, maintaining labeled files for everything from appliance warranties to car maintenance records. If he was planning something as significant as a divorce, there would be documentation. I wasn't prepared for just how right I was. In the back of his file cabinet, behind tax returns, I discovered a folder labeled simply Personal 2023. Inside was a comprehensive roadmap of Derek's plans for our future, or rather, his future without me. The first document was a consultation summary from Bedford & Associates, a high-profile divorce firm known for representing wealthy clients in contentious splits. It outlined a strategy for what they termed an advantageous separation, including recommendations for timing after year-end bonuses are secured, and asset protection. Transfers should be completed at least 6 months prior to filing. Attached was an intake form in Derek's handwriting. Under grounds for divorce, he had written, "Growing apart. Wife's constant working creates irreconcilable lifestyle differences." Under custody arrangements desired, he had checked primary physical custody with a note. Mother's night shift schedule makes her an unsuitable primary caregiver. My hands shook so violently I could barely continue reading. Derek was not only planning to divorce me but to take our children, using my work schedule, the schedule he had insisted I maintain as evidence of my unfitness as a mother. Deeper in the drawer, I found statements for a bank account I knew nothing about, opened at a private banking division 18 months earlier. The most recent statement showed a balance of just over $1.2 million. Money that should have been part of our marital assets had been systematically diverted to this hidden account. Next came evidence of real estate transactions, a luxury condo purchased 6 months ago in an LLC registered to Derek and his father. The property was in the exclusive Harbor Towers, overlooking Boston Harbor, with a purchase price of $3.4 million. The paperwork listed it as an investment property, but attached interior design consultations told a different story. This was being prepared as Derek's post-divorce residence. Most disturbing was a document titled Post-Separation Strategy, prepared by a PR consultant. It outlined a comprehensive plan to shape the narrative around our divorce, portraying Derek as a devoted father forced to step up because his workaholic wife had essentially abandoned her family responsibilities. It included talking points for friends, family, and the children's school, all carefully crafted to position Derek as the victim of a career-obsessed wife who chose professional ambition over family. The level of premeditation was staggering. While I had been working night shifts and blaming myself for not being more present, my husband had been methodically preparing to discard me, strategizing how to take my children and turn our social circle against me. I photographed every document, creating a digital record of the evidence. Then I turned my attention to Derek's laptop, conveniently left behind since he had a newer model for travel. His password had always been Lily's birthday, a fact that now struck me as performatively sentimental rather than genuinely touching. His email archives confirmed my worst suspicions and revealed new betrayals. There were hundreds of exchanges with Rachel going back over a year, many containing inappropriate flirtation that crossed well beyond the boundary of in-law relationships. They met regularly for lunches and drinks when I was working or sleeping, their communications filled with inside jokes and veiled references to the future. While not explicitly romantic, their alliance had clearly evolved into something inappropriate. Rachel. She has no idea how much you do for those kids. You deserve someone who appreciates you. Derek. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I'd met you first instead of your sister. Rachel. Let's focus on getting through these next steps first. Then who knows what might happen. The emails between Derek and his parents were equally revealing. What I had interpreted as typical in-law tension over the years was actually a coordinated campaign to separate Derek and the children from me. Linda and Richard had provided significant financial incentives tied directly to Derek's relationship with me. Richard, the trust distribution of $300 kelvins is approved now that you've secured separate banking arrangements as discussed. The next distribution, $500 kelvins, will be processed when the separation is officially underway. Linda, we've always known she wasn't right for you, darling. The prenup was our best decision. She'll have no claim to the family money, no matter how much she tries. Money I never knew existed. A prenup whose details had been explained to me only superficially when I was a naive 9-year-old. Family wealth that Derek had always downplayed while encouraging me to work more hours to contribute my fair share to our household. The most heartbreaking discovery came when I found Lily's private journal in her room. I had never invaded my daughter's privacy before, but these were extraordinary circumstances. The recent entries revealed how thoroughly the adults in her life had manipulated her perception of me. Grandma says Mom chooses work over us because her career matters more than family. Dad says it's not Mom's fault, she just has different priorities. I don't know what to believe anymore. I wish Mom wanted to be with us like other mothers. Ethan's therapy notebook, which his counselor encouraged him to maintain between sessions, contained similar themes. Dad and Grandma say I shouldn't ask Mom to come to my games because it makes her feel bad when she has to work instead, but I don't understand why she always has to work. Grandpa says it's because Mom didn't grow up with money, so she's obsessed with earning it. But Dad makes lots of money already. I just want her to come to my games. My children had been systematically turned against me by the people I trusted most, their understanding of my absences twisted from necessary sacrifice into selfish abandonment. No wonder they hadn't protested going on vacation without me. They had been conditioned to believe I didn't want to be with them in the first place. By evening, I had compiled overwhelming evidence of a years-long campaign to isolate me from my family, undermine my relationship with my children, and prepare for my eventual discarding. The painful irony was that my exhausting work schedule, the very thing used against me as evidence of my inadequate commitment to family, had been deliberately maintained by Derek to keep me too tired, too absent, and too financially dependent to notice what was happening. As I organized the evidence, a notification popped up on the family iPad, a banking alert showing a $50,000 transfer from our joint account to Derek's hidden account, initiated just hours earlier from the Bahamas. The pillaging of our shared resources was actively continuing while they enjoyed their luxury vacation without me. The family I thought I had imperfect but fundamentally loving had never really existed. In its place was a sophisticated operation of emotional and financial manipulation, with Derek as its calculating center, Rachel as his willing accomplice, and my in-laws as the bankrolling architects. I sat surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal as night fell on Black Friday, the traditional start of the Christmas season. There would be no holiday reconciliation, no chance to repair what had been broken, because it had never been whole to begin with. There was only the harsh truth and the question of what I would do with it when they returned, expecting to find the same exhausted, gaslit woman they had left behind. They had no idea who would be waiting for them instead. By Saturday morning, raw emotion had crystallized into strategic resolve. I made a crucial phone call to someone I knew I could trust implicitly. Megan Winters, a friend from nursing school who had become a successful attorney specializing in high-conflict divorce and custody cases. "I need to see you, today. It's an emergency," I told her, my voice steadier than it had been in days. 3 hours later, we sat in her home office, the evidence I'd gathered spread across her desk. Megan's expression grew increasingly grim as she reviewed each document. Sam, I'm going to be blunt. This is one of the most calculating divorce setups I've ever seen. They've been positioning you for financial and custodial disaster for at least 2 years. She looked up, her eyes sharp with professional assessment, but they made one critical mistake. What's that? They underestimated you. They thought you'd be too exhausted, too emotionally devastated, or too financially intimidated to fight back effectively. She tapped the evidence files. Instead, you've handed me enough ammunition to blow their carefully constructed narrative apart. Megan outlined immediate actions, documenting all marital assets before more could be hidden, securing my own legal representation. She recommended a colleague who specialized in high-net-worth divorces involving hidden assets, protecting my personal financial accounts, and gathering character references regarding my parenting. Most importantly, she emphasized, do not confront Derek when they return. Do not let them know what you've discovered. We need time to position you properly before they realize their plans are exposed. I spent the rest of Saturday executing Megan's recommendations. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and transferred my recent paychecks there. I gathered and secured important personal documents, my nursing license, birth certificate, passport, car title, and personal mementos. I downloaded complete records of all my work schedules for the past 5 years, proving that I had strategically organized my shifts to maximize time with my children despite the challenges. On Sunday, I allowed myself the painful but necessary process of reflection on how my marriage had deteriorated to this point. Sitting in the quiet house with a journal, I forced myself to identify the warning signs I had missed or dismissed. There was the gradual isolation, Derek subtly discouraging friendships that were just mine, citing the complications of scheduling or suggesting certain friends were negative influences because they supported my independence. Then the financial control, Derek insisting on managing our investments because finance is complicated while making me feel irresponsible for questioning expenses or wanting transparency. The manipulated narrative around my work had been particularly insidious. Derek had actively encouraged me to take extra shifts, praising my dedication and emphasizing how crucial my income was, only to use my absences to craft a story of maternal neglect to our children and social circle. Most painful was recognizing how I had participated in my own erasure. I had accepted the role of peripheral family member, believing I was making necessary sacrifices for our collective good. I had internalized the narrative that my exhaustion was a personal failing rather than the predictable result of the impossible situation Derek had engineered. I thought about the subtle ways Derek had undermined my parental authority, the fun dad who rarely enforced rules, making me the perpetual disciplinarian, the understanding father who privately countermanded my decisions about screen time or homework, positioning me as unreasonable. The countless small comments implying my parenting was overly strict, insufficiently nurturing, or somehow damaged by my working-class upbringing. As patterns emerged in my journal, I realized something crucial. Derek had never actually valued me as a partner or co-parent. He had wanted the image of a successful family, attractive wife, well-behaved children, impressive home, but had always viewed me as ultimately replaceable. The person I married had never truly existed. By Sunday evening, my self-reflection had evolved from painful excavation to something approaching clarity. I wasn't perfect. I had made mistakes. But I had not failed as a wife or mother. I had been deliberately set up to appear as though I had failed while actually holding our family together. I reviewed the plan Megan and I had developed. When Derek and the children returned on Tuesday, I would present the facade they expected, hurt but ultimately accepting, perhaps even apologetic for working too much. I would continue gathering evidence and preparing my position while giving no indication I had uncovered their scheme. The hardest part would be facing the children, knowing how thoroughly they had been manipulated against me. Megan had recommended scheduling a consultation with a family therapist experienced in parental alienation cases, which I had arranged for the following week. As I prepared for bed Sunday night, my phone chimed with another Instagram notification. Derek had posted a family photo at a beachside restaurant. Last night in paradise with the people who matter most. The comments section overflowed with friends expressing envy of their perfect family vacation. The old Sam would have crumbled at this public display of my erasure. The new Sam studied the image clinically, noting how Derek had positioned himself between the children, how my sister stood closer to my husband than appropriate, how my in-laws beamed with satisfied triumph. I closed the app without commenting. Let them enjoy their false narrative for a few more days. They had no idea what awaited them upon their return, not an emotional confrontation, but a meticulously prepared opponent who now understood exactly what she was fighting for and against. For the first time since discovering the empty house on Thanksgiving morning, I slept deeply and dreamlessly, my resolve hardened into a shield against the coming storm. Tuesday arrived with a crystalline November chill. I had taken the day off work legitimately, on the schedule to be home when they returned. According to the itinerary I'd found, their flight would land at 2:15 p.m., putting them at the house around 3:30 p.m. I had prepared carefully for this moment, both practically and emotionally. The house was immaculate. I had removed any evidence of my investigation, returning files to their places, clearing browser histories on shared devices. On the surface, everything appeared normal, a wife and mother who had spent a lonely Thanksgiving but was ready to welcome her family home. Beneath that calm exterior, I was armored with knowledge and strategy. I had rehearsed my responses with Megan, prepared for every possible scenario from aggression to gaslighting to false contrition. Most importantly, I had fortified myself against the inevitable manipulation of my emotions, particularly where the children were concerned. At 3:42 p.m., I heard the distinctive sound of an SUV in the driveway the car service Derek preferred. Voices filtered through the front door, excited children, adult murmurs, the dogs barking. I positioned myself in the living room, a book open in my lap, the picture of domestic tranquility. The door swung open. Lily entered first, her face flushed with lingering sunburn despite the November chill. She froze when she saw me, guilt flashing across her features before she composed herself. "Mom, you're home." Not a question, but an observation tinged with surprise, as if she had expected me to be conveniently absent for their return as well. Ethan barreled in behind her, stopping abruptly when he spotted me. His reaction was more transparent, pure alarm, followed by a quick glance back at his father. Derek appeared in the doorway next, sunglasses pushed up on his head, designer luggage in hand. His practiced smile faltered momentarily when our eyes met. "Sam, you're up." He set down the bags with deliberate casualness. "How was your quiet Thanksgiving? Get plenty of rest?" Before I could answer, the rest of the entourage crowded in, the dogs rushing to greet me, my in-laws exchanging meaningful glances, and Rachel lingering uncertainly in the doorway. They were all deeply tanned, exuding the unmistakable aura of people returning from an expensive vacation, relaxed, entitled, and slightly smug. "My Thanksgiving was certainly quiet," I replied evenly, my voice giving away nothing of the turmoil beneath. Though I was surprised to wake up and find everyone gone. "It was a spontaneous thing," Derek said smoothly, the lie flowing easily. "Dad's business associate offered his villa last minute. We didn't want to wake you after your shift." Linda nodded vigorously. "We know how exhausted you get, Samantha. We thought it was kinder to let you rest." "So thoughtful," I murmured, meeting her gaze until she looked away uncomfortably. The children hovered uncertainly between us, sensing tension but unable to identify its source. I turned to them with a genuine smile. They were victims in this scenario, not perpetrators. "I missed you both so much. I want to hear all about the trip." Relief washed over their faces at this apparent acceptance. Ethan launched into an excited description of swimming with dolphins, while Lily showed me shell bracelets she had purchased. I listened attentively, asking questions, engaging fully while the adults in the room gradually relaxed, believing the crisis averted. After dinner takeout Thai food Derek ordered without consulting my preferences, the inevitable moment arrived. My in-laws announced they were heading to their hotel, and Rachel made noises about needing to get home to prepare for work the next day. "Actually," I said quietly, "I'd appreciate if everyone could stay a bit longer. There's something we need to discuss as a family." Derek shot me a warning look. "The kids are tired from traveling, Sam. Whatever it is can wait." "No," I said firmly. "It cannot wait. Lily, Ethan, could you please go upstairs and unpack? The adults need to talk." Derek waited until the children were upstairs before rounding on me, his voice low and controlled. "What are you doing? If you're upset about the trip, this isn't the way to handle it." "The trip?" I laughed softly. The trip is just a symptom of a much larger problem. Isn't it, Derek? I reached into my tote bag beside the couch and withdrew a folder containing copies of the key documents I had discovered. With deliberate calm, I laid them on the coffee table one by one: the divorce consultation summary, the hidden bank statements, the property records for the Harbor Towers condo, the emails between Derek and Rachel, the post-separation strategy document. I found these quite enlightening, I said into the shocked silence. Particularly the parts about using my work schedule, the schedule you insisted I maintain, Derek, as evidence that I'm an unfit mother. The blood drained from Derek's face as he recognized the documents. Rachel made a small, choked sound of dismay. Linda's hand flew to her pearls in what would have been a comically stereotypical gesture under different circumstances. You went through my private papers, Derek finally managed, attempting to shift to offense. That's a complete invasion of privacy. Interesting that your first concern is privacy, not denying what these documents reveal. I turned to face my sister, and Rachel, the loyal sister who's been waiting in the wings. How long have you been planning to replace me? Rachel flushed deep red. It's not what you think, Sam. No? Because what I think is that my sister, my husband, and my in-laws have been orchestrating my removal from my own family for years. What I think is that you've been manipulating my children into believing their mother doesn't care about them. What I think is that you've been systematically gaslighting me while pillaging marital assets in preparation for blindsiding me with divorce. Richard stepped forward, his banker's composure reasserting itself. Now, Samantha, you're becoming hysterical. These are complex financial matters you clearly don't understand. Actually, Richard, I understand perfectly. You've been bankrolling this entire operation, using financial incentives to encourage your son to leave his wife. The $300,000 trust distribution for securing separate banking arrangements? The promised $500,000 when divorce proceedings begin? It's all documented in your own emails. Linda's carefully maintained facade cracked. You were never good enough for him. A night shift nurse from a nobody family. Derek deserves someone who understands his world, his potential. Someone like Rachel? I asked quietly. Derek finally found his voice, switching tactics from denial to justification. You checked out of this marriage years ago, Sam. Always working, always tired, never present for the children or me. What did you expect? I expected honesty. I expected the husband who encouraged me to take those shifts to admit he was using my absences to build a case against me. I expected the man who insisted we needed my income to admit he was hiding millions while I worked myself to exhaustion contributing to our family. I stood, suddenly exhausted by their presence. I've consulted an attorney. I have copies of everything. I've documented the hidden assets, the parental alienation, the planned character assassination. You thought I was too beaten down to fight back, but you miscalculated severely. Derek's expression hardened into something ugly and unfamiliar. You'll lose. You signed a prenup. My parents have resources you can't imagine. The children will stay with me. Actually, I said calmly, that prenup becomes invalid in cases of documented financial fraud, which you've committed extensively. As for resources, you'd be surprised what people will do to help when they learn how completely you've betrayed your family. I turned to my in-laws. You should know that if Derek pursues the strategy outlined in these documents, everything becomes public record. Every manipulative email, every hidden account, every attempt to turn my children against me. Is that the public legacy you want for the Carson family name? Richard's face contorted with rage. Are you threatening us? I'm stating facts. Unlike all of you, I have nothing to hide. Derek moved toward me, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. You think you've won something here? You've just guaranteed this will get ugly. It was already ugly, Derek. The difference is that now I can see it clearly. I stepped back, creating distance between us. You should all leave now. My lawyer will contact yours tomorrow. The children are coming with us, Linda declared, starting toward the stairs. The children will remain in their home with me, I countered firmly. Unless you'd like to explain to them right now why their father and grandparents have been lying to them about their mother for years? Show them the emails where you discuss using them as pawns in your divorce strategy? The threat of immediate exposure to the children stopped them cold. These people had operated in shadows and secrets for years. They weren't prepared for the harsh light of direct confrontation. Derek gathered his parents and Rachel with a look. We're leaving. This isn't over, Sam. No, I agreed. It's just beginning, but not the way you planned. After they left, I sank onto the stairs, the adrenaline of confrontation giving way to bone-deep weariness. Above me, I could hear the children moving around, blissfully unaware that their family had just imploded. How would I explain this to them? How could I protect them from the ugliness to come? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I had something I'd been missing for years, the truth. It was a start. The next 72 hours unfolded with dizzying intensity. True to my word, my attorney contacted Derek's first thing Wednesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, Derek had moved out temporarily. He insisted to the children, due to some adult issues Mommy and Daddy need to work through. I had prepared for this moment as best I could. When Lily and Ethan came downstairs for breakfast Wednesday morning, confused by the tension in the house and their father's absence, I sat them down for an age-appropriate but honest conversation. Dad and I are having serious problems in our relationship, I explained gently. He's going to be staying somewhere else for a while we figure things out. Is it because you're always working? Lily asked, her voice small but accusatory. The question pierced my heart, confirming how thoroughly the narrative had been established in my children's minds. No, sweetheart. I work night shifts, so I can be available for your school events and activities during the day. The problems between Dad and me are complicated, and not your fault or responsibility. Grandma says you choose work over family, Ethan offered, his innocent repetition of Linda's manipulation nearly breaking my composure. I'm sure it sometimes feels that way when I'm tired or have to sleep during the day, I acknowledged, but I've always organized my schedule around your important moments. Remember how I was at your science fair even though I'd worked all night? Or how I took a week off for your theater camp, Lily? Confusion flickered across their faces as this contradicted the story they'd been told. I didn't push further, following the therapist's advice not to overwhelm them with adult concerns or speak negatively about their father and grandparents. By Thursday, the battle lines were clearly drawn. Derek had engaged Bedford and Associates as planned. Richard had apparently made good on the promised financial support, as Derek's legal team began with aggressive demands for temporary custody based on my erratic behavior and unpredictable work schedule. My in-laws launched their social offensive immediately, calling friends and school parents with carefully crafted stories about their concerns for my mental health and the children's well-being. Rachel participated enthusiastically, suggesting to mutual friends that I had become unhinged after the trip, inventing wild conspiracies about the family. I had anticipated this strategy from the documents I'd found. What I hadn't expected was how quickly some people I'd considered friends would accept these characterizations without even speaking to me directly. Carol, whose daughter had been in Lily's class since kindergarten, called me Thursday evening. Sam, I'm concerned about what I'm hearing. Linda says you've been making scary accusations and Derek had to leave for his safety? Carol, think about what you know of me from the past 8 years, I replied calmly. Have I ever shown any indication of being unstable or threatening? Her hesitation spoke volumes about how effective the whisper campaign had been. No, but people change. What people do is reveal their true selves eventually, I said. I'd appreciate if you'd reserve judgment until you have facts rather than Linda Carson's interpretation of events. By Friday morning, my nursing supervisor called me into her office. Sam, I've received some concerning calls about your home situation, she began carefully. There are suggestions that your judgment might be impaired due to personal stress. I maintained my composure with effort. Let me guess, calls from a man named Gregory Bedford or possibly Richard Carson? Her surprised expression confirmed my suspicion. Derek's team was attempting to undermine my professional standing, potentially jeopardizing my license and certainly my income. Lisa, I'm going through a difficult divorce from a man who has been financially and emotionally abusive. His family is wealthy and well-connected. These calls are part of a documented strategy to discredit me professionally. I slid across a letter from my attorney explaining the situation. Lisa read it carefully, her expression softening. I've worked with you for 6 years, Sam. I've never had concerns about your judgment or patient care. These allegations won't go anywhere with me, but be careful. They're playing hardball. The children were caught in the crossfire despite my best efforts to shield them. On Friday afternoon, I received a call from Ethan's teacher, Mrs. Parker. Ethan became very upset during sharing time today. When another student talked about Thanksgiving with their family, Ethan started crying and said his family is broken and it's his mom's fault. I closed my eyes against fresh pain. His father moved out Wednesday, and he's understandably confused and upset. We have an appointment with a family therapist next week. Is he okay now? His grandmother picked him up early. She said she had permission. Ice flooded my veins. Which grandmother? I didn't give permission for anyone to pick up my son. Linda Carson. She showed us a text from Derek's phone authorizing it. I hung up and immediately called Derek, who didn't answer. Then I called my attorney, who initiated emergency action to prevent parental interference. By the time I arrived at Richard and Linda's condo, police were already there. Ethan sat in the lobby with an officer while raised voices came from the Carsons unit. My son ran to me, throwing his arms around my waist. "I'm sorry, Mom. Grandma said we were going for ice cream, but then she said we might go see Dad for the weekend instead." The attempted parental interference was documented in the custody file, strengthening my position but traumatizing my son in the process. That night, after both children were finally asleep, I sat alone in my kitchen and faced the darkest moment since the betrayal began. The people who should have prioritized the children's emotional well-being were willing to use them as pawns in this power struggle. How much damage would be done before this was over? For the first time, I questioned whether fighting was worth the cost to my children. Perhaps I should accept Derek's initial settlement offer, losing primary custody, but maintaining liberal visitation rights to end the conflict quickly. As I contemplated surrender, my phone chimed with a text from Taylor. "Don't you dare give up. Your children need the truth. They need the parent who will always put them first." Saturday morning brought unexpected support. Lily emerged from her room clutching a journal. "Mom, I need to show you something." She handed me the book, open to entries from the past year. "Grandma and Dad told me to write down when you missed stuff or seemed too tired, but I also wrote down all the times you were there even when you were super tired." The pages detailed dozens of moments, school concerts I'd attended directly after shifts, homework help I'd provided despite exhaustion, special breakfasts I'd prepared before big tests. My daughter had been documenting my presence, not just my absences. "I don't want to go live with Dad," she said quietly. "He's never actually there even when he's home. He's always on his phone or working or going out with Aunt Rachel." Her perception cut through the carefully constructed narrative Derek had built. Despite their efforts to alienate my children, they had noticed and remembered who was truly present. Ethan joined the conversation, sitting close beside me on the couch. "Dad said you don't want to be with us, that's why you work so much." "But that's not true, is it?" "No, sweetheart," I assured him, pulling both children close. "That has never been true. I've always arranged my schedule to be available for your important moments. I work nights specifically, so I can be here when you get home from school most days." "Then why did Dad say that?" Lily asked, the betrayal evident in her voice. "Sometimes adults tell stories that make themselves feel better about their choices," I explained carefully. "Your dad and I are having very serious problems, but none of them are because I don't want to be with you two. You are the most important people in my life." This unexpected alliance with my children provided the strength I needed to continue fighting when the preliminary custody hearing was scheduled for the following week. For the first time since Thanksgiving morning, I allowed myself to believe that truth might eventually prevail over wealth and manipulation. 6 months after the Thanksgiving morning that shattered my world, I sat on the deck of our new home, smaller than the old one, but filled with more genuine warmth. Lily and Ethan were splashing in the modest above-ground pool, their laughter healing something deep inside me with each spontaneous burst. The legal battle had been brutal, exactly as Derek had threatened. His initial confidence, however, had not accounted for the meticulous evidence I'd gathered or the determination I'd developed. The turning point came during the 3rd week of hearings, when Derek's carefully constructed narrative of the sacrificial father and absent mother began to unravel under scrutiny. My attorney presented documentation of every school event, doctor's appointment, and extracurricular activity I had attended over the past 5 years, alongside records showing Derek's frequent business trips and late nights. The financial revelations proved even more damaging to Derek's case. The hidden accounts, the secret property purchases, the evidence of systematic financial deception, all extensively documented in Derek's own meticulous records, painted a picture, not of a concerned husband, but of a calculating manipulator who had planned his exit strategy for years. while deliberately keeping his wife overworked and financially vulnerable. Most devastating to Derek's case was the testimony of Lily's therapist, who presented journal entries revealing how Derek and his parents had coached the children to document my absences while dismissing my presences. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, had been particularly troubled by this evidence of parental alienation. The final custody arrangement granted me primary physical custody, with Derek having the children every other weekend and one dinner weekly, far from the outcome he and his parents had engineered so carefully. As for Rachel, the revelation of her betrayal eventually led to her tearful confession that she had indeed developed feelings for Derek over the years of their inappropriate closeness. Their relationship had not progressed to physical intimacy, she insisted, but the emotional boundary crossing was undeniable. The confession came too late to salvage our sisterly bond, which remained severed by her participation in the campaign against me. My career had actually flourished in the aftermath, somewhat ironically. I had transferred to day shifts in the pediatric unit, a move I had wanted to make for years, but Derek had discouraged. The regular hours allowed me to be more present for my children, while still maintaining the professional identity I valued. Financially, the settlement had been substantial despite Derek's initial attempts to leverage the prenup. The documentation of financial fraud had invalidated those protections, as my attorney had predicted. While I hadn't pursued the maximum possible settlement prioritizing a swift resolution for the children's sake, I had secured enough to provide stability and some future security. More precious than the financial settlement was the gradual restoration of my relationship with my children. The family therapy sessions had been challenging but transformative, creating space for Lily and Ethan to express their confusion and hurt while helping them understand the adult dynamics that had affected them. "Mom," Lily had said during one particularly meaningful session, "I used to think you were choosing work over us. Now I understand you were working for us, not instead of us." Derek's relationship with the children remained complicated. His initial anger at losing control of the narrative had resulted in several missed visitations and inconsistent communication. Recently, however, he had begun showing up more reliably, perhaps finally recognizing the damage his behavior was causing to his relationship with his children. My in-laws had essentially disappeared from our lives after the court rulings went against them. Their conditional love had always been tied to control, and when that control was lost, so was their interest in maintaining a relationship. While this hurt the children initially, the therapist had helped them understand that true grandparental love shouldn't come with manipulation attached. This Thanksgiving would be our first in the new house, a deliberate choice to create new traditions rather than attempting to reclaim holidays tainted by betrayal. The children and I had already planned a menu that discarded the formal dishes the Carsons had insisted upon in favor of our actual favorites. "Mom," Ethan called from the pool, "watch this." He executed an underwater handstand, emerging with a triumphant grin that echoed the carefree child he had been before adult machinations had burdened him with false loyalties. I applauded enthusiastically, treasuring his restored ability to simply be a child seeking his mother's approval, not a pawn in a complex game of parental alienation. The past 6 months had taught me painful but valuable lessons. I had learned that some betrayals cannot be anticipated because they stem from fundamental character flaws hidden beneath years of performance. I had discovered reserves of strength I never knew I possessed. Most importantly, I had learned that truth, while sometimes slower to emerge than well-funded lies, carries a power that ultimately cannot be suppressed. As I watched my children play in the afternoon sunlight, I reflected on how close I had come to losing them, not through any failure of mothering, but through a sophisticated campaign of manipulation. The gratitude I felt for their presence in my life was immeasurable, but no longer tinged with the desperate fear of inadequacy that Derek and his family had so carefully cultivated in me. I had survived the worst betrayal imaginable, abandoned on a holiday meant to celebrate family connection, systematically undermined as a mother and wife, nearly stripped of my children and financial security. Yet here I was, rebuilding something more authentic than what had been lost. The journey had been excruciating, but the destination, this moment of genuine connection and hard-won peace, was worth every painful step. Have you ever experienced betrayal by someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to rebuild? Share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences might give courage to someone facing their own moment of devastating discovery. If this story resonated with you, Please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and recovery. Share with someone who might need to be reminded of their own strength today. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of a more authentic life than you ever thought possible.